Hear the words of the Old Testament. For the day of the Lord is near against all the nations. As you have done, it shall be done to you. Your deeds shall return on your own head. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My sermon today is about good deeds, good action, the significance of good action. I think the good deeds, especially the helps that, the ones that help others in need, cannot be emphasized more. However, as believers who belong to a Methodist tradition, a major denomination in the Protestant tradition, some may ask, but isn't good faith more important than good deeds? I think that question is reasonable. I understand that reaction. But I don't think that these two, good faith and good action, these two are not competing values. We've learned that one of the core teachings of Christianity should be is what is called the sola fide. You're familiar with the phrase sola fide. It's a Latin phrase meaning faith alone. The teaching of sola fide is that one is saved only by the faith in Jesus Christ, not by one's deeds. I truly believe that one is saved solely by the faith in Jesus Christ. However, I also want to highlight this. Faith in Jesus saves us, but good deeds may save others. Does it make sense? Let me repeat that sentence one more time. Faith in Jesus saves us, but good actions may save others. One can be saved by faith alone, but good action may save other people. Today, I'd like to share this message with you with the meditation of the book of Obadiah. From this book, we see that God not only wants us to do good things for others in need, but also rages against those who do not care about others in crisis. Let's look at the book of Obadiah. In Korean pronunciation, Obadiah. I chose another small book. If you remember, my sermon last time was about the book of Haggai. Those are the books that are not read most often. This time I chose this book of Obadiah. Well, why did I choose this book? I just thought, in this time, maybe hearing those prophets who are not receiving much attention may have some wisdom for us at this moment. So I just read the book of Obadiah, and this is kind of exposition of Obadiah. First, it is difficult to find the book of Obadiah in the Bible. Have you tried to find the book of Obadiah from the Bible? Even I failed whenever I try to find the book of Obadiah. Here's a reason. The reason that that's so hard to find is because the book of Obadiah is the shortest book in the Bible. It has only one chapter and it has only 21 verses. So the book of Obadiah is the shortest book. And like the book of Haggai, but this book includes the divine oracle given to the person whose name is Obadiah. He was a prophet in the 6th century BCE. However, there are several differences between Obadiah and Haggai. Obadiah is the prophet who delivers the message several decades before Haggai. Haggai delivered this message in 520 BCE, and Obadiah seems to deliver this message around 587, so about 60-something years before Haggai, and right after the fall of the kingdom of Judah, right after Jewish people lost their country. Message-wise, it is very important to understand the historical context of where Haggai is prophesying when we read the Haggai. But the Obadiah, the book of Obadiah, what is important is to understand the audience to whom Obadiah is speaking. Maybe it's a little confusing, but think about Haggai and Obadiah. To Haggai, the context was this: he was prophesying to Jewish people who returned from Babylon and who are about to rebuild the temple. To Obadiah, interestingly, Obadiah is not speaking to Jewish people. He's speaking to Edomites, Edom in Korea, Edom 사람들, you know. So it is important to understand the audience of Obadiah, to understand the whole message in the Obadiah. The audience is Edomites, not Jews. Then we need to understand who these people are, Edomites. Edomites are the descendants of Esau, the brother of Jacob. You know, there are stories, Esau and Jacob, they were twins. Esau was the older brother, Jacob was the younger brother, but Jacob wanted to have the blessings from his father, the first son's blessing. So he deceived his father, he deceived his brother, he got that blessing. Father was angry, the brother was angry. He left the home, he fled the home, and he went to another place. So like Esau and Jacob were, Edomites and Jews later, so Jacob's descendants became Jewish people and Esau's descendants became Edomites. And Edomites and Jews, their relationship were exactly like Esau and Jacob. They were continuously in tension like real brothers, but they lived close to each other as well. They were next to each other, but they were always quarreling to each other. But what would the parents want to see from their sons? I know Reverend Lee has 3 sons. I have 2 sons. They're 5 years and 7 years now. They're good boys. They get along with each other very well, but oftentimes they fight. Of course. And as a parent, that is okay to see that they have some struggling, fighting. I think that's a part of brotherhood. But what I expected is one day, you know, when one of them encounters some serious difficulty in their life, I really want the other one help his brother. Right? I think that might be the parents' mind. They can fight sometimes, but when one of them is in a problem, in a crisis, I really want the other one becomes the real help. But Edomites didn't. Edomites didn't help Jewish people, Israelites, when Israelites were in crisis. Edomites rather took advantage of Jews' suffering. When Jews were under attack by Babylon, they did not help, but rather came into the land and joined plundering They stole things. They despised Israelites. When Israelites was invaded by the Assyria, Edom also took advantage of it. So God did not like it. God was mad about it. God's anger is what we hear from the book of Obadiah. God tells us clearly what this people, what Edomites had done to Jews. If you look at verses 10 through 14, I'm sorry, I don't have a slides for that, but here I'm going to read it. Verses 10 through 14, this is what God says to Edomites. For the slaughter and violence done to your brother Jacob, shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. You know, you did slaughter and violence to Jacob. On the day that you stood aside, on the day that strangers carried off his wealth and foreigners entered his gates and cast lots for Jerusalem, you too were like one of them. When your brother was being humiliated, you Edomites, you brothers, did not help them, but you came into that land and did the same thing like those enemies done to your brother. Verse 12, but you should not have gloated over your brother on the day of his misfortune. You should not have rejoiced over the people of Judah on the day of their ruin. You should not have boasted on the day of distress. You should not have entered the gate of my people on the day of their calamity. You should not have joined in the gloating over Judah's disaster on the day of his calamity. You should not have looted his goods on the day of his calamity. You should not have stood at the crossings to cut off his fugitives. You should not have handed over his survivors on the day of distress. God was so angry. God could not stand with it, with what Edomites had done. Edomites betrayed their brothers when their brothers were humiliated. They were not only bystanders, but also perpetrators. Edomites slaughtered their brothers, robbed their brothers, and despised their brothers. They were laughing when their brothers and sisters were weeping. How evil and vicious they are. Don't we remember that God's message is more like this? Romans chapter 12, verse 15. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. But what Edomites had done was rejoice with those who weep. When his brother was weeping, he was laughing and despising of his brother. God was angry. God spoke to Obadiah in order to tell them about their misdeeds and how God is upset about them. God says in verses 2 to 4, I will surely make you, the Edomites, least among the nations. You shall be utterly despised. Your proud heart has deceived you, you that live in the clefts of the rock, whose dwelling is in the heights. You say in your heart, who will bring me down to the ground? But God says, I will bring you down to the ground. Verse 4 says, though you soar aloft like the eagle, though your nest is set among the stars, from there I will bring you down, says the Lord. Well, reading the book of Obadiah, I first thought about Jews in this context. I told you this message was given right after Jews lost their country. They already lost the kingdom of Israel 200 years ago, And now they finally lost the rest of it, the kingdom of Judah. And their brothers never helped them. Jews, they must have been, first of all, very embarrassed when they were attacked by those Assyria and Babylon, and they lost country. They thought their God was helping them, protecting them. Their God was there for them, but their battles, they lost the battles, and they lost the country. How embarrassing that would have been. And think about this, and the Israelites must have been even more embarrassed when Edomites betrayed them and pillaged them. They would have felt that God was not there with them anymore. They would have thought that God was dead. God totally abandoned them. Either God abandoned them or God was dead, right? And second, I think that as I was reading this book, I thought that, well, this might not be just a message for Edomites. Then what? Maybe this is a message to us. It makes us remind of ourselves. It makes us realize who we are and what we have done for others. And it reminds us that we were sometimes like Edomites. We often tend to think ourselves as victims whenever we encounter this kind of a story. Think about it. And when we read this when Christians read this story, people often think that, oh, we are victims. They put themselves in a Jewish position. And they think other people, like non-Christians, other religious people, they're the Edomites. They're attacking us. They will be punished by God, will be saved, will be protected by God. But I think we should also be able to put ourselves into the position of the Edomites. We often think that we were the victims, but we're the perpetrators as well. Edomites are the symbol of those who live life against the teachings of God, against the divine values, against the life, peace, justice, and compassion, those values. Edomites are the symbol of those who just pass the needy, who ignore their calls, who took advantage of someone else's misfortune. Edomites are the examples of those who oftentimes pass by the needy, like the priests and the Levites in the story of the Good Samaritans. And we should understand that we might have been like them. We were like them. We were like the Edomites of nights. Also, my message today is pretty simple. Make more good deeds. Do more good deeds. Don't be like Edomites. Help the needy. Take care of the neighbors. But I like to emphasize the rationale, why we need to do that. Of course, we need that because that's what our God wants us to do. But we need to do more good deeds because our actions, I think our actions may be received as the voice of God to some people. In other words, our misdeeds can be interpreted as the damnation of God to some people. When was the moment that you felt God is truly alive? God is real. God is protecting me. God is taking care of me. When was that moment? You all must have your own special moments, the moments which you can never forget, the moments that keep you and never let you leave God easily, even though sometimes you have so many hardships, so many doubts about faith. That moments keep you and never let you go easily. You must have those moments that make you never deny not only the existence of God, but also the love and grace of God. To me, one of those moments was when someone came to me randomly and gave me a random help when I was in a predicament. I remember a few years ago when I was a first year PhD student, first year of marriage, my wife and I were in the US and we were having a financial issue. But we didn't tell to anybody. We thought we'd look just happy, and I'm pretty sure we look pretty happy because we were newly wedded and first year of marriage. We just began PhD program. We were in the same school in a different major, so we took classes at the same time, and we met back after the class. We go lunch together. We were pretty happy, but we were having a financial problems, and if you have that experience, you know how financial issues really bother your life. Well, we were having that, but never told anyone about that. One day, a classmate of mine, she was a middle-aged pastor. She was already a pastor, but came back to school to study further after a couple of years of a ministry. I didn't know her very well, but she approached me and offered a lunch. Why don't we have a lunch together and invite your wife too? So she treated me lunch, and I thought that lunch was good. We had coffee. I thought that was the end of our meeting, and she took us to Daiso, and we didn't know why, but she said, "Here, grab whatever you want. You can have as many as you can have." And we were a little embarrassed at the moment, but she was like, "I'm serious. Go pick things. This is Daiso. So you can pick as many as possible." So my wife began to pick several pieces, and we grabbed several things and came back to the counter, and she bought all of them for us. And after we say bye to each other, she also gave us some cash to us. We didn't even know that we really needed it. Maybe we didn't really need $200 at the moment. We could survive. But maybe I think she saw something more than what is sin. Even though we look okay, even though our life look fine, even though we just superficially we look okay, she probably sees something more than that, more deeper into our lives. And coming back home, my wife told me, she said, "Well, I didn't even know that we were lonely. I didn't even know that we need someone to take care of us. But after having the treat from her, I feel like I have my mother here in the US." That's what my wife said. We were already left our family a few years ago, both of us, and spent a couple of years in the US, and we got married and we were living there. Well, we thought we were okay. We're dealing our life okay. But at that moment, we realized that, oh, her help, that time, that hand, this looks like the hand of God. And I feel like God is watching us. On the contrary, there are moments in our lives, unlike the moments like this that I just shared. Our life has some moments when we feel like, oh, God doesn't exist, God's not here, or God's not watching me. Especially when I see those who claim that they're sincere Christians, oftentimes the pastors, elders, or the leaders of the church, I see, they commit some crimes or they take advantage of the weakness of the vulnerable people. I think that is one of the moments when I feel like, is there really a God, right? So I wanted to emphasize this. Our good deeds may lead other people to hear the voice of God, but our misdeeds may lead people to fall and fail as well. I do not, God says, in verse 15, God says, for the day of the Lord is near against all the nations. As you have done, it shall be done to you. Your deeds shall return on your own head. This means if you did wrong to others, the same thing will come to you. This is a scary comment, especially when we think about our misdeeds done to others. However, I don't want to close this sermon by saying we better want to do something good if we don't want to have judgment. I would like to close this sermon more with the positive encouragement rather than emphasizing the punishment coming toward us. Do the good things, then you shall save other people. You shall be able to save other people. That's what I wanted to say. And others may come to you and save you when you are in need. That's what I want to say. The same thing shall be done to you. The same thing shall come to you. So that is the divine principle given to us. And that is the message I want you to remember today. The same thing will come to us. If we do something wrong to others, that may come to us. But if we do the good things to others, that may save others, and those saved people may come back to us and may save us too when we need. So I hope that message will keep you this week and continue your life in faith of Jesus Christ. Amen.